how social media destroyed stand-up comedy. Um, Before y'all jump the gun, this excludes the people that are at the top, the A-list, premier, prime comedians that are going to draw massive crowds no matter where they go based on their name, their credibility, their skill. They have it, they're at the top. I was doing stand-up comedy several years ago, and one of the things that I noticed was that the pathway, and this is the pathway that I was told. And anybody have any thoughts? You're always welcome to put them in the comments. Agree or disagree, it's fine. I'm just here talking. The pathway was that you did a bunch of open mics, you got good, people maybe put you on a few little small shows, little bar shows, or shows at bowling alleys and tea houses or whatever. You get on a few little shows, you do a little bit better, you get on bigger shows, you work your way up. Then maybe the comedy clubs in your area that had professional comics, so the big comics came through. Um, they would come in and they'd take you on the road if they liked you. You know, like if you opened for a good, a well-known comedian, and he liked you and you did good, you built that relationship. So maybe the next few times he came back, he always had you opened, and maybe you moved from opening to featuring for him, and you really got good at that. And then he liked you so much that he took you on the road, and then you got the gig, and you got an agent, and it was all great and dandy. And you were in the movies, and you were a big famous stand-up comedian. That was the pathway. And that's still the pathway. To be honest with you, not saying that can't happen, but my opinion that which I'm explaining now in this video is a antiquated um, pathway now because social media came through and leveled the playing field and wiped the floor with so damn much. I'm going to explain it. So, I was hanging out at the comedy clubs, and there were a lot of, and this is not me speaking on my behalf because I feel I got cheated from something or anything. I went directly to social media because that's where I saw and still see the future being. So I went directly straight to, got on here and was like, okay, this is going to be that, and I'm just going to put in the work. But I was hanging around the comedy clubs, and there were so many great comedians where I was at. Very skilled, very talented, been doing it for years, very deserving. And it seemed like things kind of changed with the social media because people can get in front of a camera and this can be seen by millions, if not billions, around the world. It kind of leveled the playing field when the goal was too, if you were able to get on the road as a comic, was you were building up your fan base each room you went to. Well, the rooms you're going to maybe had 100, 200, maybe if you're lucky, 300 seats in there. So you had a chance to influence, you know, 300 people versus you get in front of this camera and you have a chance to influence millions with one speaking one video. you know I saw what happened is that a lot of the deserving comics that should have been headlining and featured and had put a lot of work into these comedy clubs, and drawing people in and promoting shows and getting out there on the corner, come see comedy tonight, and just really hustling and deserving of that pathway that I explained. They were well deserving of it, but not getting it. And who was featuring and headlining? It was I started seeing it early on. It would be these social media, um, influencers at the time. And this was years ago, but that's who was taking over the stages from the comics that had worked and slaved and went the pathway and spent years bombing until you got better and start the whole pathway and writing jokes and getting on stage for 5 minutes, no one laughing at you, and bombing week after week and still going, was getting wiped the floor by some girl in her bedroom just talking trash. And why was that? A lot of myself and other comics, we got upset and mad about it. We were like, you know, how the hell is this happening? And then we would go see some of the shows and like Oh, she ain't doing nothing but doing the same thing she do on the internet. This isn't stand up. She's not a comic. But I'm gonna tell you one thing I started paying attention to. So you got to look a little deeper. I always had a mind of business. So even though I was doing it as a stand-up comic, I didn't see many asking this question. Is that I started looking around the room when I would go to some of these shows with the other comics or hang out at the comedy club. And what I started to see is that that room was full. Yeah, they wasn't no stand-up comic. Yeah, it was weird. And they just up there doing what they were doing in their bedroom. But that room was full. And then you start to look deeper is that, and I always say, I go by the quote is that they say that you can have whatever you want as long as you get everyone else what they want. What did the comedy club want? They wanted a full house with sold tickets, folks buying drinks, and folks buying food. And while a lot of us put the work in on that stage, we had no legitimate audience. Them social media influencers at the time could bring people in, sell out 5 or 6 shows, 2 drink minimum. You know what I'm saying? 300 people in there. They can get you 200 bodies in there, 6 sold out shows, 1,200 people, 2 drink minimum. Over a weekend, 2,400 drinks sold. How much the profit margin is in comedy clubs for drinks and stuff. The club owner and the business is great. But I've been doing it for this, and that. I've been practicing and doing it this. That didn't make it, that didn't hold a hill of beans. These people, and I saw it, and that's what, pushed me into stand-up. I saw the into social media content because I saw it happen early on, and I said I made my step, and I'm willing to put in the work, willing to put in the grind, but I saw that. Oh wow! And I start to see it more and more frequent, and you start to hear more and more comedians complain about it. Even when I got here to LA, oh man, how they letting her open the show? How she go on the road with this person? Because she draws in an audience, and the same damn thing works too with comedians, and they're trying to open or feature for someone, even if that person big or mediocre, not really known. I had a comedian that I'm trying to think his name that I opened for, Mike Palisak. And I was doing stand-up comedy. I brought everybody from my call center job, everybody I hung out with on in my neighborhood, and the folks came out, and he came up and told me thank you because while I wasn't getting paid for it, the club owner and him was happy because that brought in money. That brought in extra ticket sales. And that's a thing again. A lot of comedians go into, oh, he's gonna take me on the road, she's gonna take me on the road, he's gonna give me this. Y'all worried so much about what the hell somebody finna give you instead of what you're gonna provide. And a lot of comedians still are on the fence that think social media is BS, is going to explode. But the fact of the matter is, and I saw my own 2 eyes and still see it to this day, they are packing these comedy houses. They are getting booked. They are bumping comedians that have been doing it and put in the grind in the old pathway versus the new pathway scenes that these people are sitting in their bedroom and building an audience, and they're bringing their audience. You have a big enough audience, it brings you with you, and that's what pushed me into social media content, and that's how I feel that social media, some people are going to hold on, and if they're plugged and you're connected, great. But comedians out there, anybody thinking about it, anybody doing content, anybody doing anything, like, times have changed. These old pathways that we used to follow and think that, oh, that's the way to make it and that's the way it happens for you, is not the way it is. Things are changing, times are changing, y'all. And we got to be legitimate and we got to be real about it. Shit is changing. And for me, I just personally think, and that's how the social media, and then being a comedian, this is it's a crazier pathway because you got to drive to these gigs, you got to go to places where they don't pay you, go to places where they give you $5, to go to places where they give you $8. I think the lowest I got was $8. I was glad as hell to get it because I put it in my car for gas. But you got to do all this stuff versus you can just sit in your bedroom or post up wherever you want in front of a camera and build an audience and build it from that space and build it from wherever you're able to do it at that time because like even for me, living in LA is expensive. And I've been able to get to the money to take care of myself and provide for myself. But at the end of the day, being able to run to a lot of open mics and shows and all of that hasn't it wouldn't be proficient with a lot of the type of work that I've had to do to maintain the living here in LA. So it became a thing like, wow, well, I can stationary do this and work on this from basically anywhere in the world. Because let's just say you blow up in the comedy scene and people say that everything I'm saying is BS. Fine, let's say you blow up, but you got to travel. I know comedians that work the road and were making great money, you know could maintain a relationship, could maintain a marriage, bad habits, drinking, other things, other unhealthy things, not healthy, not personally happy, you know. Hadn't even got into that phase yet, and you ask yourself, what is it, what does that end up being really worth? So I think social media, that is how social media to me has destroyed stand-up comedy. It's you know, I did it. I love it. I have a passion for it and admiration for it, but it's on its way out the door. It's already mostly out the door because that's what's being dominated. You're a social media. I build my audience enough. I don't have to wait to try to hope to get an audience with Kevin Hart or do a show with him. If I can tell Kevin Hart that each show I can guarantee 10,000 tickets sold or 5,000 tickets sold of people coming with me, I'll be on the damn comedy special with him. There's nothing wrong with it. It's business, but this is, a way that a lot of people I was around, and even here and especially here in LA, that were locked on this old way of doing things. And I'm not saying that way can't work and everything, but there are some new factors in play. As they say, there are some new variables. 1 plus 1 ain't 2 anymore. Things have changed. And social media has wiped out and will continue to wipe out stand-up comedy. So I knew a lot of comics that were like, "Oh, I refuse it" and all that. Keep refusing it, but I tell you one thing, it's making its laps.